Okay, so it seems that I did have enough left to create a third video, so here it is. Kicking off with this Leopard 2 ARV driver, who seems to be having a fair bit of fun. Apparently also known as the Buffalo. I am going to assume from the yellow and black license plate that this is another of the Dutch representatives. I don't know why they spend so much effort coming to the UK. I really don't mind. I think it's great. I wish more countries would do it. But kudos to the Dutch for doing something that almost nobody else will do, except for the Belgians, of course, with their Firefly or last year the IS-3. There was quite a selection of ARVs on display, all things considered, especially since there's not actually much you can do that's exciting with an ARV. The Centurion one here with the rather odd and unique 3-block tracks that they used for a little while. Followed on by a Chieftain version. Begs the question, given how unreliable those things were, whether or not the ARV and the Leyland engine in the ARV was any better. And of course, the Leopard with a new driver. Of course, there is always one show-off. Challenger ARV grabbed an old Chieftain somewhere, tugged off the side skirts. I mean, presumably this one isn't a runner. Not so many Chieftains on display this year. Usually at TankFest you can expect to see a whole slew of different types, varying from a Mark 6 all the way through the Stealth Demonstrator, but they weren't running this year. Now, here's a dirty little secret. I am something of more of a fan of the Cold War than I am of World War II when it comes to tank technology and so on. But fortunately, because they are reasonably modern vehicles and thus reasonably reliable, there's always good selection available to watch. So kicking off with that Leopard 1 and then the Leopard, I had said it was called the PTRL, it's the PRTL, my bad. The Panther 61, again, if you haven't checked it out, I do have an Inside the Hatch video on that. Very unique tank inside with a lot of unusual features. The T-72, and of course the Austrians are back as usual, running the M103 and the M60. That tank is, I don't know, it just doesn't look as American as the M60. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's too bulky or something like that. Not that American tanks are small or anything, but as design philosophies go, the M103 is misproportioned, I think, probably the best way of putting it. Again, the Chieftain head running around, turret over the rear deck in the travelogue, I have no idea why, and the Challenger 1 finishing off the Cold War period. Again, I just love the look of Challenger 1. It's very sleek, smooth lines. It's really just a reskinned Chieftain, but anyway. Now, of course, there is always the grand centerpiece feature, which this time around was the Panther, which World of Tanks had paid to bring over from Seymour. And it has just been very recently restored, repainted. They decided that they were going to paint it up as Britannia, which was the name given to a Panther which is captured by the French resistance, which is why it's got the French roundel. Rather weirdly placed, looks a bit like eyes. Kind of weird. Anyway, so they gave it for a quick spin around. Not too fast. I mean, I don't think they really got it out of third gear at all. I was a little disappointed they never ran it at the same time as the Yay Panther, but I guess there's only so much you can do. But they really did only run it around once, and they put it into a battle position for what is probably one of the more unusual and confusing battles I've seen at TankFest. Now again, normally TankFest is more about the vehicles than it is about the battle reenactments. But it's always good to have a few explosions, keeps the guys entertained. But this one was a little bit weird. I think they were just trying to find excuses to run vehicles. Now, if you will recall back in the day when Terry Wogan would do commentary for the Eurovision, I think this would be very suitable here. So you start off with a Panther in a defensive position. It's in French colours, but I think it's supposed to do that. And then you have a couple of T-34s that show up. Okay, hooray, they're the enemy. The T-34s drive around, showing off, one going one way, one going the other way. And apparently, some point in the middle of this parade, or demonstration, or whatever you want to call it, I guess representing moving into position, the Panther realizes that they are there. The TC hops down into the hatch, and he starts scanning around to engage the T-34s. There's sort of a period here that this will work for a tank Panto, because you kind of have all the kids yelling, "He's behind you!" as the T-34 goes by. So anyway, the T-34s then go to the other end of the field and obligingly take stationary positions head on to the Panther, with predictable results. I mean, I don't think they got a shot off. They may have. I may not have recorded it. Guys, your tank's on fire. You might want to bail out, maybe. Yeah, no, you're just going to sit there and have a chat with the other bloke. Okay. So, the two T-34s are knocked out, and then suddenly, out of the west, come the Americans. With the M4A2 and a wonderful M4A1. I mean, this is just beautifully stowed. Looks like it's just been taken right out of 1944 and transported. And then, for no explicable reason, the Firefly shows up as well for the British. Now, there was a unit in Italy which apparently borrowed a company of Fireflies. But the T-34s wouldn't have been there for that. So the Americans drive behind the destroyed T-34s, looping around. And the British, of course. Again, it's lovely to hear the different noises from the different engine types. So you got the twin diesel, the radial, and the multibank. Again, the Panther sees the Americans, who have now taken up position just off screen to the right, knocks out a Firefly, and then calls for reinforcements, which show up in form of the Panther III, a reliable runner at TankFest. Always nice to see. A tank that never gets the credit I think it deserves. Followed by the Sturmgeschütz, the early model that was here last year as well, with the re-engine. It's, I think, got an FD432 engine. But note that even with the trope and modifications, they've had to leave the air vents open. And then, late to the party, but catching up eventually, before the battle ends, the Panzer 38T again. So you can see the knocked out Firefly and the M475 are up there with the 76 still engaging. Suddenly the 76 shot rings out as the Panther is still getting into position. And smoke from that 76 shot starts pouring from the Sturmgeschütz and the Panther.
Did he kill two tanks with one shot?
Back at Fury. I was going to say, so Fury going to come save
Note the white flag being waved in the background there. And as near as I can tell, that was it. A Kubelwagen shows up and a Kettenkrad. The sole function, as near as I can tell, is to represent removing the crew of the bailed out Panther. and to provide a white flag which the Panther then started waving. And that was it. The vehicles then went on their victory lap, or consolation lap, I guess, if you were German. Again, that is quite probably the best M4 I've seen at a show. A lovely combination of dirt, dull coating, stowage. The Belgians have invited me over. I do intend to get there. I don't know when I'm going to manage it. I think Sweden is next on my list. Although when you see this, it'll probably be in Greece. The Panther didn't do a victory lap. I really think they were trying to reduce the strain and stress on this vehicle. So they weren't driving it particularly fast, and oftentimes we would just take the shortest distance between 2 points to get to wherever it is that it was going. A lot of backfiring as well. So anyway, that is the salvo of videos that I've got from TankFest 2019. Again, it was an incredibly busy visit. I didn't have much time to do anything. It was, at least I didn't have much time to sit down and relax. I had to skip lunch a few times. But it was great seeing you all there. And I do intend to be around for the next one. The director says that there's going to be a couple of more little format changes, especially on the Friday, the preview day. And as I say, I am hoping that they're able to figure out a way of just having media access to vehicle park absent the crowds, that we can get in and do some reasonable filming of the vehicles. Some of which, again, some of these guest vehicles, the Firefly, the Valentine DD in particular, they're deserving of more attention and video, but it just wasn't possible for me to do it. So I return you now to our regularly scheduled lineup of videos. Take care.